Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to do my review of AEW's Wrestledream. Starting off tonight, we have Jay White versus Adam Page. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Jay White and Adam Page, with Jay White keeping the pace of the match. Page then hits a Death Valley driver off the apron on Jay White. Page hits a pump-up powerbomb on the apron as well on Jay. Page then hits another powerbomb off the steps on Jay. Page then hits a Deadeye, but Jay White ends up hitting the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jay White. Hats off to Jay White for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Willow Nightingale versus Mariah May for the AEW Women's title. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Nightingale and May, with May keeping the pace of the match. Nightingale then hits a Death Valley driver on May, but May gets up, hits a Storm Zero on Willow Nightingale, pins her for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW Women's Champion, is Mariah May. Hats off to Mariah May for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the TNT Championship. It is Jack Perry defending the TNT title against Shibata. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Perry and Shibata, with Perry keeping the pace of the match. Perry then applies a snare trap on Shibata, but the hold is broken. Shibata then hits a Death Valley driver on Perry. Shibata then applies a submission hold on Perry, but Shibata's shoulders was down. Referee counts to 3. And then after that, your winner of the match, due to the fact that Shibata's shoulders were down, were Jack Perry. Jack Perry retains the TNT title. After the match, Perry attacks Shibata. Garcia is here. Garcia tries to attack Jack Perry and save Shibata, but after that, he is interrupted by MJF. MJF finally returns after taking some time off. MJF and Garcia get face-to-face. Perry then attacks Garcia. MJF then follows up on the attack by attacking Garcia as well. MJF then grabs a microphone. He mocks Garcia. MJF talks about Garcia re-signing with AEW. MJF then also says that he got back his Dynamite Diamond ring. MJF goes to put the ring on, but he is interrupted by none other than Adam Cole. Adam Cole returns. He comes down to the ring and chases off MJF. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's for the International title. It is Will Ospreay defending the International title against Takeshita and Ricochet. Number one, I thought it was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Ospreay, Takeshita, and Ricochet, with Ospreay hitting a springboard forearm. Ricochet then hits a standing shooting star press in the middle of the ring. Ospreay then hits a Pele kick. Takeshita then hits a Death Valley driver off the apron on Ospreay that looked absolutely brutal. Ricochet then hits a Meteora off the apron, taking out Takeshita. Ospreay hits a Spanish Fly in the middle of the ring. Ospreay then hits a Styles Clash in the middle of the ring as well. Takeshita then hits a Blue Thunder Bomb. Ospreay gets up, hits a Enziguri. Ospreay hits an Oscutter as well. Ospreay hits a Poison Rana on Ricochet. Ricochet hits a Poison Rana of his own. Ricochet then hits a Shooting Star Press. Takeshita then hits a Tombstone Pile Driver maneuver through the table. Ospreay then hits 2 Hidden Blades for a near fall. Ospreay then goes to attack Don Callis, but Kyle Fletcher comes out to the ring and attacks Will Ospreay. And because of this attack, it allowed Takeshita to hit the running knee on Ospreay, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new International Champion is Takeshita. Hats off to Takeshita for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Swerve Strickland. Swerve comes out to the ring. He's been off the scene since his matchup that he had with Adam Page that was absolutely brutal. Swerve returns to the ring with Prince Nana. Swerve grabs a microphone and says he feels different without the AEW title. Swerve also says that he is medically cleared to return to the ring, which is absolutely awesome news. After that, MVP is here with Shelton Benjamin. MVP interrupts Swerve, says he wants him to join him in his new stable. Swerve talks about him and MVP's history and the history they had in WWE. Swerve then hypes up Shelton Benjamin, says that he looks up to Shelton and what he's done for professional wrestling. Swerve says that he lost a lot with Prince Nana, but he also gained a lot as well. Swerve says Nana is family, and he ain't turning his back on family. Swerve then declines MVP's offer. Shelton then says Swerve has no choice, that he will at one point join their stable. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. It is Hologram versus the Beast Mortos. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Hologram and Mortos, with Mortos keeping the pace of the match. Hologram hits a quick roll-up on Mortos, pins for the 3, and your winner of the first fall is Hologram. After that, Mortos then hits a press slam on the ramp on Hologram. Hologram gets up somehow, hits a moonsault to the outside, taking out Mortos. Hologram then hits a Poison Rana as well, but Mortos hits a devastating lariat on Hologram, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the second fall is the Beast Mortos. After the fall, Hologram then hits a Poison Rana off the apron and looked absolutely brutal. Mortos then gets up, hits an avalanche press slam on Hologram for a near fall, but Hologram hits an airplane spin on Mortos, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Hologram. Hats off to Hologram for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Darby Allin versus Brody King. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Allin and King, with King keeping the pace of the match. Darby hits a coffin drop, as well as a code red on King for a near fall. Darby then throws King off the top rope, landing onto the steel steps. Darby then goes to the top rope, hits a coffin drop off the top rope, landing on Brody King in the steel steps. Then Darby hits another coffin drop on Brody King, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Darby Allin. After the match, Brody King walks over to extend his hand to Darby Allin, kind of paying respect to Darby Allin. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's for the AEW Tag Team Championships. It is the Young Bucks defending the AEW Tag Team titles against Private Party. Thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between the Young Bucks and Private Party. Quinn hits a swanton off the stage, taking out the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks get up somehow and keep the pace of the match. Isaiah then hits an acai moonsault to the outside. Nick Jackson then hits a moonsault off the barricade. Mark Quinn then hits a 450 off the barricade as well. Nick Jackson and Isaiah Cassidy both exchange in the middle of the ring, with the Young Bucks hitting an EVP trigger for a near fall. And the Young Bucks hit their signature TK driver, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and still AEW Tag Team Champions, are the Young Bucks. Hats off to the Young Bucks for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's for the Ring of Honor World Championship. It is Mark Briscoe defending the Ring of Honor title versus Chris Jericho. Number one, I thought it was a decent match, man. Back and forth matchup between Briscoe and Jericho, with Jericho keeping the pace of the match. Jericho quickly hits a code breaker on Briscoe, but Mark gets up, hits a blockbuster off the apron, taking out Jericho on the outside. Orange Cassidy then attacks Big Bill. Jericho then hits a Hurricane Rana. Jericho applies a wall to Jericho, but the hold is broken. Brian Keith then attacks Mark Briscoe, but Rocky Romero comes out to the ring to attack Brian Keith. Mark then hits a senton to the outside. Mark then goes for a froggy bow, but Jericho counters it with a code breaker. And then Jericho hits a Judas effect on Mark Briscoe. Jericho hits a J Driller on Briscoe as well. But Briscoe gets up, hits a froggy bow off the top rope on Jericho, as well as a J Driller on Jericho, pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match, and still Ring of Honor World Champion, is Mark Briscoe. Hats off to Mark Briscoe for getting the win in this matchup. And moving on from that, we go into the main event of Wrestledream. It is Bryan Danielson defending the AEW World Championship against Jon Moxley. Number one, thought it was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Moxley and Danielson, with Danielson keeping the pace of the match. Danielson then hits a running knee on Moxley for a near fall. Danielson then lands multiple yes kicks on Moxley as well. Moxley gets up, hits a devastating pile driver on Danielson off the announce table. Danielson then gets up, hits a pile driver of his own on Moxley. Danielson and Moxley both exchange in the middle of the ring. Shafir then stops Danielson. Referee then throws out Shafir. Danielson then hits a running knee again on Moxley for a near fall. Danielson then applies a label lock, but the hold is broken. Moxley gets up, hits a Death Rider on Danielson on the outside. Danielson then gets up, hits a running knee. Moxley then hits a Death Rider again on Bryan Danielson. Moxley then hits a pile driver. Moxley then applies a submission hold. Referee sounds for the bell, and your winner of the match and new AEW World Champion is Jon Moxley. After the match, Pac and Claudio and Marina are in the ring. Yuta and Darby are here as well. Yuta then attacks Darby, and then Yuta also attacks Bryan Danielson. Danielson is laid out in the middle of the ring, and then a stretcher comes out to pretty much take Bryan Danielson back to the back of the arena. A couple things I want to talk about, man, with Wrestledream. Number one, let's talk about the main event. Well, Other parts of the main event that I didn't talk about was what Pac did after the match. He grabbed the championship and then put it in a bag and then walked out of the arena. Definitely intriguing stuff there. But before we talk about the main event, man, let's talk about Wrestledream in its entirety. The entire thing of the show. Jesus. The entire show. From top to bottom, was the show good? Yeah, from a wrestling aspect, the show was good. I'm not going to sit here and say that the wrestling aspect of the show was not good. The matches were good. Will Ospreay and Ricochet and Takeshita killed it. And Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, those two were the matches of the night for me. Hands down for Wrestledream. Hands down. And honestly, a close second would be probably Darby and Brody King. Those three matches were the top matches of the night for me, as far as Wrestledream is concerned. But with lack of storyline, did it, kind of take away a lot from Wrestledream? Absolutely. And I said this about my review that I did for Dynamite last week. Dynamite was one of the worst, if not, it was actually, by the ratings, the worst episode of AEW Dynamite in its history since it's been around for the past 5 years. The worst episode ever. I think it actually gained 390,000 views compared to what NXT did, which I think was close to 700,000 views. So yeah, it was a pretty bad show for AEW Dynamite last week. But with that being said, I mean, a lot happened at Wrestledream. A lot of, I would say, close to story, but a lot of angles during Wrestledream and after Wrestledream. So let's talk about it, man. Number one, we get the return of none other than MJF. MJF has been out for a couple weeks. He took some time off. He's dealing with some injuries and stuff like that. And he finally came back, confronted Danny Garcia. Obviously, there's a little history there between MJF and Garcia. And now MJF's back in the fold of AEW, which is absolutely awesome. But on the flip side of that coin, the other great return was none other than Adam Cole. Adam Cole returned at Wrestledream, and he came out to the ring and chased down MJF. Now, when it pertains to Adam Cole, a lot of people are conflicted with Adam Cole for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's great to see Adam Cole back. I think the reason why fans are conflicted with Adam Cole is because MJF came back as a heel. You look at Adam Cole, it looks like he's coming back as a babyface, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that the last time we seen Adam Cole in action, he was the person behind the person that was wearing the devil's mask. It was Adam Cole. And Adam Cole was going to be one of the biggest heels in the company. With Adam Cole aligning himself up with Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Wardlow as well, and Roderick Strong as a part of Undisputed Kingdom. So I don't know what route they're going to go with Adam Cole. It looks like Cole's going to turn babyface, and it looks like he's got his sights set on MJF, which is absolutely awesome. And it's great to see Adam Cole back, finally, in AEW after he's been out with a lengthy injury, and it's great to see him back into the fold of AEW. The other thing I want to talk about is Swerve, man. There's been a lot of stuff going on with Swerve Strickland. Obviously, MVP and Shelton Benjamin are the new signings, if you will, for AEW. And MVP has had his sights set on Swerve, and he wants Swerve to join his new stable with himself and Shelton Benjamin, obviously possibly Bobby Lashley. He wants to make a powerhouse stable. Looks like Swerve had turned him down. Looks like Swerve is going to stick it out with Prince Nana, which I'm actually happy about, that Swerve is going to stick it out with Prince Nana. But it's only a matter of time that we see Bobby Lashley. Now, did I think we were going to see Bobby Lashley at Wrestledream? Absolutely. I was about 80% to 85% sure that we were probably going to see Bobby Lashley at Wrestledream, and unfortunately we did not. So it looks like they are going to eventually debut him. It could be this week on Dynamite. I'm not sure. But I will say this. I'm pretty confident that Bobby Lashley has signed a contract with AEW, and that he will be debuting with the company here relatively soon. So, again, another great addition to AEW, and definitely look forward to see what Bobby Lashley does in AEW. The other thing I want to talk about, the big elephant in the room, is obviously the main event. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. Now, my take on this was, it was a hot take for a lot of people to actually understand and to really sink their teeth into. My whole stickler with this main event, and I still stand behind this, is I thought it would have been better if it was Darby versus Bryan Danielson. To be honest, even if Danielson had lost to Darby, it's a passing of the torch to Darby, and Darby's the new face of the company, and someone that the fans can really get intrigued by. He's one of the originals. He's one of the pillars of AEW. And Bryan Danielson passes the torch to Darby Allin, and Darby Allin carries his company on his back, with Danielson taking time off, not having a full-time schedule anymore, and only, having a pretty much a part-time schedule. And I still stand behind that. For me as a fan, I wanted to see Darby versus Danielson for the AEW World Title at Wrestledream in the main event. And like I said, the story writes itself, man. Both these guys are from the state of Washington. Darby being from Seattle and stuff like that. I mean, it just works out perfectly. And to be honest with you, Darby really cut his teeth in professional wrestling, if I'm not mistaken, in Washington. Obviously, wrestling for Evolve. Swerve has also wrestled for Evolve as well. A lot of talent has wrestled for Evolve. And if I'm not mistaken, that's more of a Northwest promotion, so indie promotion. So to me, it was, it kind of just wrote itself, man. Darby, Danielson, main event, Wrestledream, live from Tacoma, Washington for the AEW World Title. With that being said, though, was I completely against Moxley and Danielson? Absolutely not. I think, there could have been a better story between Danielson and Moxley in the build towards this matchup for Wrestledream. Absolutely. I could say that with a lot of matches that were on the card that night for Wrestledream. The build was not there. The build was very lackadaisical, if there even was a build towards Wrestledream. And I think because of that, it kind of took a little bit of away the hype, if you will, around Wrestledream. But the match itself between Moxley and Danielson, man, they tore the house down. It told a great story throughout the match. Danielson came out to the ring pretty much, beating the shit out of Jon Moxley, which was great. Marina Shafir was also involved in the matchup. It just told a great story, man. It was a good story in that matchup, and there was a lot of angles, like I said earlier, when it pertained to that main event and what happened after that main event. I mean, you see Claudio and Pac and Marina Shafir, getting involved after the match with Danielson, and Wheeler Yuta coming out, and Yuta was the wild card. Obviously, Yuta was backing up Bryan Danielson throughout this whole duration of what Jon Moxley has done after what happened at All Out. And then you see Wheeler Yuta come out to the ring and do exactly what Jon Moxley did to Bryan Danielson, but this time it was Yuta doing that to Bryan Danielson with the bag. And same thing happened with, Moxley and Danielson at All Out. Wheeler Yuta turned his back on Bryan and did exactly the same thing that Moxley did to Bryan Danielson at All Out. So obviously, Yuta has aligned himself up, it seems like now, with Jon Moxley and Claudio Pac and Marina Shafir. So you have that stable. But again, then you see, like I said, Bryan Danielson walking out on the stretcher. Then you see other talent coming out to the ring to save Bryan Danielson, like Jeff Jarrett, Kyle O'Reilly, Darby Allin. You see a lot of these talents coming out to save Bryan Danielson. Private Party was also there. So there was a lot to really digest when it pertained to this main event, man, as far as, even the lead up towards, this week's Dynamite. I would say for Jon Moxley, the biggest thing, and again, I said the same thing about Bobby Lashley. A lot of people, even myself included, that we thought we were going to see Shane McMahon. Is McMahon the person behind this? Is he the higher up over Jon Moxley that's controlling the narrative, if you will, of this stable? Is he the one that had his sights set on Bryan Danielson? So who is Jon Moxley really truly answering to? Is it Shane McMahon? Or is it Sami Callihan? Because Sami Callihan's name has been floating around for a little bit now due to the trademark that Jon Moxley had filed, which was the Switchblade Conspiracy, which I believe was their tag team name when Moxley was teaming up with Sami Callihan on the Indies. So again, a lot of similarities there between, that and Sami Callihan or Shane McMahon. But we did not see Sami, nor did we see Shane McMahon at Wrestledream. But there's still a lot of shit to really, unfold here, to be honest with you, when it pertains to Jon Moxley. There's a lot to unfold. And, like I said, CM Pac grab that belt, put it in a duffel bag, and then walk out of the arena. Are we going to get a new title, a new looking title? Who knows what's going to happen. It's happened before, with title changes and stuff like that. But it's definitely intriguing, man. I mean, it was one of those things where, again, you got to give a little bit of credit to Tony Khan because he is Mr. Pay-Per-View, because he literally turned chicken shit into chicken salad with the fact that there was no build, no hype around Wrestledream. There was no storyline that the fans can really truly get invested in besides maybe Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, only because of what happened to Bryan after what happened at All Out. That was the only kind of storyline that we had that the fans could really sink their teeth into, to be like, why the hell are we getting this matchup? Oh, it's because Jon Moxley attacked Bryan Danielson at All Out. That's the only thing that we had as far as storylines concerned leading up to this, this matchup between Mox and Danielson at Wrestledream. That's it. But again, there was a lot of things coming out of this matchup, and kudos to Tony Khan, man, because like I said, he turned chicken shit into chicken salad. There's a lot of things to really digest with this. There's really a lot of things to kind of try to comprehend on really what the hell is going on. I mean, if you really look at the narrative, there was a reason why those gentlemen, being Jeff Jarrett, Darby Allin, I believe Kyle O'Reilly, Private Party, were out there, trying to protect Danielson and watching Danielson, be carried out on a stretcher. Those guys were there for a reason. The other thing is why is Pac putting a title in a duffel bag and then, leaving the arena? Is that belt for Jon Moxley, even though he is the new champion? Or is that belt a prize to the person that's higher up over Jon Moxley as a gift or a token of appreciation for what that person's done for Jon Moxley? Is this a gift that Jon Moxley and, the Blackpool Combat Club are going to give this person that's really, truly in charge of this new Blackpool Combat Club? Is it Sami Callihan? Is it Shane McMahon? We don't know. And for all intents and purposes, this whole storyline here of who the person's going to be, the higher up, if you will, this could drag out for the next couple weeks, next couple months, man. This could actually drag out until World's End. Would I be against it? No. But AEW also has to be very careful with doing that because it gets people's, hopes up, and the storyline can run dry if they don't keep adding stuff to it and building off of the storyline and building off it and building off it until we finally get the reveal of who this person could be. That's my biggest fear with this, is the fact that if they keep doing this and it doesn't go anywhere, then that whole storyline or whoever the person is, it's going to be very lackadaisical because people are not going to be invested anymore because time has gone on so far, so long. And I'm all for long-term booking. I'm all for storylines playing out for 6 months to a year. If it actually makes sense and they keep, continuously keep adding a little small ingredients to it here, every now and then, like with the Bloodline storyline, like I was talking about with my SmackDown upload. If Moxley and whatever the hell they're doing there with that and keep adding little small pieces here and there into this whole storyline of who this person possibly could be, I'm all for it. And if it carries out the World's End, I'm all for it. I mean, look what happened with Adam Cole and MJF, man. Everybody was kind of, contemplating or speculating in that point of who in the hell was the person behind the Devil's Mask. Now, my first initial thought was Adam Cole, and I was right. But again, that storyline went on for quite a while. People were getting attacked backstage, and it was also making things intriguing rather than, okay, he shows up on a Titantron and that's it. No, it went from that to people being attacked backstage, including MJF himself being attacked backstage from the people that were behind the Devil and the Devil's Mask. You know what I mean? So, like, you had to give the fans something to really sink their teeth into to get invested in this, and I'm hoping that Jon Moxley and Tony Khan can really build off of what the hell they did at Wrestledream, because it still has a lot of people, thinking about, man, what the hell just happened? Also not even thinking about the fact that Bryan Danielson lost. He not only lost the match, he lost the AEW World title. He lost the title, and he lost that match. Now, what does that mean? That means that Bryan Danielson's full-time in-ring career has come to an end. It's over. That doesn't mean Danielson's going to retire and walk away. No, Danielson will have a part-time schedule. He will do matches and do things on his time and his time only. Has he earned it? Absolutely. Bryan Danielson has had a hell of a career. You want to talk about someone being an underdog? It's Bryan Danielson. Hands down. Hands down. So he'll have a part-time schedule, but Bryan Danielson also needs to have neck surgery, so he's probably going to be out for quite a while. We might not see Bryan again for another year. 6 to 8 months to a year. Probably not. Probably not. I mean, even this matchup with Moxley, he's still technically a free agent. I'm not saying that he's going to go over to WWE, but it's going to be a while, I think, until we see Bryan Danielson. I'd be very surprised if we see him on Dynamite. Just with the way that the end of the matchup, with him being taken out on a stretcher, leaving in an ambulance, I'd be surprised if we see Bryan at Dynamite. I think it's going to be, the whole show is going to be, the main vocal point is going to be Jon Moxley. Because everybody wants to know who's in charge. And we want to hear from Jon Moxley and what happened that night at Wrestledream. So like I said, man, I mean, again, hats off to Tony Khan for turning chicken shit into chicken salad, because no one really expected this pay-per-view to even be remotely that good. Or like, damn, this wasn't that bad, because the build, there was no build. There was no hype around this pay-per-view. And like I said, when it pertains to Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, AEW's two of the biggest stars they have in the company, the only thing that we can go back on to really sink our teeth into as fans to be like, well, how the hell did we get here? Well, the only way that we can go to think about that and answer that is to go back at what happened at AEW's All Out when Jon Moxley had attacked Bryan Danielson. That's the only thing that we had to go off of to get us from that point to what we got at Wrestledream with the matchup between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. You know what I'm saying? So again, there was really no build, no hype around Wrestledream, but am I going to sit here and say that they delivered? Yeah, I think they did. I mean, even looking at Ospreay, Takeshita, and Ricochet, it was a great match. You know, Takeshita and Ospreay, they tore the house down when they had that singles match. Ricochet and Ospreay, same thing. Seeing those guys in a triple threat matchup and then having Takeshita walk out as international champion, I wasn't mad at it. I was not mad at it at all. Takeshita is severely underrated for AEW, number one. Number two, it's about damn time that he has singles gold, and he's a champion. It's about damn time. Absolutely. You know, I know some people might be, oh, well, Will Ospreay really, didn't really have his chance with that belt. That he had to get that belt up eventually, man. He's not going to go undefeated, number one. Number two, it was Takeshita's time. Takeshita has earned the right to become international champion. He's worked his ass off to get to that point. Same thing I said about Jey Uso when he became Intercontinental Champion. Same thing. Takesha's been underneath the radar, waiting for his time, and that was his time, and he cashed in on it. Can't be mad at it. Cannot be mad at it at all. Absolutely. I'm still waiting to see a goddamn Takeshita versus Okada match, and hopefully we do get that at some point in AEW. Absolutely. Hell, it could be at Wrestle Dynasty for all I give a damn. That's coming up in January. The Young Bucks are also announced for that show. Hiroshi Tanahashi also, if you guys don't know who that is, he is the president right now of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the ace of New Japan. He just announced recently that he's going to retire, I believe, after Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty, I believe. And he's done. He's calling his in-ring career, that's it. It's over. Kenny Omega also will most likely be hopefully around for that show. I know Kenny Omega's trying to do whatever he can to come back. I know he's been training with Kota Ibushi. Kenny Omega's definitely missed, man. He needs to come back into AEW. You know, and my thing is, and I've said this from day one, when it pertains to AEW, they have a hard time building up talent. They really do. So when these people are out, these high-profile names for AEW, it does hurt the company. Now that we got MJF back, we have Swerve back, and we have Adam Cole back, that definitely excites a lot of fans and gets fans back into the mix, if you will, of AEW. Because everybody wants to see what Adam Cole's going to say or what he's going to do. Everybody wants to see what MJF's going to say. Everybody wants to see what Swerve's going to say. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to see what Jon Moxley's going to say after what happened at Wrestledream. So, again, it's definitely getting more eyeballs on the product, which is a good thing because AEW needs it. And like I was going to say earlier, if everybody stays healthy, man, whether it's Britt Baker to Thunder Rosa to Adam Cole to Wardlow to Powerhouse Hobbs to Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, if those guys, those men and women can stay healthy, man, AEW has one of the best rosters in the world. And if those people can stay healthy, AEW is firing on all cylinders, man. And I'm dead ass serious about that. You know, they need those talents back. Keith Lee, another one. Keith Lee's definitely missed. Big fan of Keith Lee. It'd be awesome to see him come back in AEW. Absolutely. Maybe have some unfinished business with Swerve. Or maybe join MVP. I don't know. Keith Lee's, to me, he's underrated. His NXT run was awesome. Hands down. Awesome. But again, they need those talents back, man. And we're starting to get now we got Adam Cole, MJF, Swerve's back as well. So, hopefully, this week's Dynamite, man, it should be a good show. It really should. I mean, obviously the fallout of what happened at Wrestledream, we should hear something about Jon Moxley, Swerve maybe, MJF, Adam Cole. We should definitely hear something about from Adam Cole. So Dynamite should definitely be interesting this week, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But like I said, man, I can't sit here and completely say that Wrestledream was a bad show. I said Dynamite last week was a really bad show and they need to get their shit together. Yeah, and I stand behind it. AEW needed a change. They needed something to revamp whatever the hell they're trying to do here because the shit was not working. It was 3 weeks consistently of shitty booking. No storylines, no build, nothing. I mean, we didn't even get billed, like I said earlier. I said it countless times already that we didn't even get billed for Wrestledream. But, again, Tony Khan is Mr. Pay-Per-View, and he turned chicken shit into chicken salad. That's exactly what that man did. And it worked. It definitely worked because now it has it sparked a lot of people's attention. Absolutely. And everybody's going to be intrigued on what's going to happen at Dynamite, myself included. They left you with that cliffhanger at the end of Wrestledream with, Pac leaving with the belt, putting it in a bag. Looks like he's trying to give it off to somebody else, give the belt to maybe the higher up in this stable, Danielson, retires from full-time in-ring action. That's a big deal. It's a big, big deal, man. So again, Dynamite is going to be very interesting this week. They left you with that little bit of a cliffhanger to get you excited for Dynamite, and hopefully Tony Khan can deliver, man, because, like I said, Tony Khan is Mr. Pay-Per-View. But as far as the episodic television for both Dynamite and Collision, he shits the bed on that. Absolutely. And there's no reason why this week's Dynamite should not be good. Storyline, angles, getting the fans intrigued, start slowly building towards AEW's Full Gear in November. Slow build. And it starts intensifying over the next few weeks leading up to Full Gear. You have all this time to do it, man. You got the rest of October and early November to do that, and mid-November, to build these stories, make these matches make sense for both men and women. I'm going to repeat that, for men and women to make sense, for us fans to actually sink our teeth into, get invested in, and then we get the final product of these storylines and these matches taking place at Full Gear. That's what the fans want. The other thing I want to quickly talk about, too, and I know a lot of people were mentioning this to me the other day, is that AEW had let go of Jimmy Jacobs. Now, Jimmy Jacobs was, if you want to call it, a part of AEW's creative team, and he was with AEW for a little while, and Tony Khan and Jimmy Jacobs parted ways. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, the shows are going to get better now because of Jimmy Jacobs. I don't believe so. I don't think Jimmy Jacobs was the main reason why the shows were bad. Tony Khan has a lot to do with that. Tony Khan has a lot to do with how the AEW Dynamite has been for the past couple weeks. It's not just Jimmy Jacobs. But with that being said, do I think Tony Khan needs a writing team? Yeah, absolutely. You can't just rely on Jennifer Pepperman to really build off this show. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they really brought in Pepperman to be the writer for Mercedes Moné because she also worked with Mercedes or Sasha Banks when Sasha was in WWE. So it was a win-win for Mercedes when she came into AEW, and it was somebody that she was willing to work with and somebody that she was comfortable with to help her creatively. You know what I mean? I don't think she's writing for the entire show of AEW Dynamite. And that's where Tony Khan needs to hire a writing team and someone that he can trust to also help him with booking AEW because he's wearing multiple hats every single day. I said last week that I don't even think this guy actually sleeps, man, to be honest with you. From what he's dealing with the Jacksonville Jaguars to, I believe, the soccer team that they own or his family owns to, obviously, Rampage, Dynamite, Collision, as well as Ring of Honor. This guy wears a lot of hats every single week. So hopefully we can get a writing team that means a damn, that can actually make these shows better. It's the same thing with Adam Page, man. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about quickly, too, before I get out of here. I respect the hell out of Jay White. I do. But I really feel like at this point they really don't know what to do with Adam Page. After that great match that he had with Swerve, I feel like Tony Khan really got his back against the corner when it pertains to booking Adam Page. You know what I mean? Because he's like, what do I do with him now? Not taking anything away from Jay White. I think Jay White's great. I think Jay White should be a future AEW World Champion, hands down. He's a former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He's a great wrestler. Great wrestler. And again, not taking anything away from Jay, but, I feel like they're just kind of throwing Adam Page in these certain matches, and really kind of having him beef, if you will, with Bullet Club Gold. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, I felt like it's not as bad as Wardlow going through that storyline with MJF and then his first match after that storyline was JD Drake kind of deal. But I feel like Page, they could have done a little bit something better with Adam Page, to be honest with you. Rather than what they have been giving him, Jeff Jarrett and all that shit. I feel like they could have done a little bit better with Adam Page, to be honest with you, than what they did after, the war, if you will, that he had with Swerve, to be honest. So, I think that's my only real negative of Wrestledream, to be honest with you. And again, it's not taking anything away from Jay White. I just feel like they could have put him in a better storyline than what they've been doing here in the past couple weeks, whether it pertains to Jay White or Jeff Jarrett. You know what I mean? But, like I said, Dynamite should be really, really intriguing this week, man. Really. Whether we get the debut of Bobby Lashley or we hear from Jon Moxley. After he won the belt, are we going to finally see or kind of get a clue on who this person may be that's the higher up, if you will, the person that Jon Moxley's taking orders from? Is it Sami Callihan or is it Shane McMahon? And the fans want to know, and hopefully they can get the fans invested and really sink their teeth into this storyline, possibly with, Jon Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club. And I'm all for it, man. I'm absolutely all for it. So, like I said, I can't really say I can completely say, oh, Wrestledream was a horrible show. I can't sit here. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I thought it was a really decent show. It is. I didn't think it was that bad of a show. And it definitely, from the start to the finish, and even at the finish of that show, there's still a lot of questions the fans, and myself included, as a fan, really are interested on getting answers to for some of these questions and figure out what AEW is going to do next. And I think AEW Dynamite this week will definitely be an intriguing show, to say the least. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Wrestledream. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.